Hi everyone, so we're going to be looking at how we can do unit testing for different sizes for desktop, tablet, and mobile. So I got the finished product right over here, and if I just show you what it looks like, of course I have to do npm run dev first inside the folder, and then remember I have to open up another terminal right here, and then I have to do the other command for Playwright as well. So it should be, so we could take one of these as well. I could just take npx Playwright test because everything passes right now. So let me run that. So let me show you first what this page will look like. It's just a really simple, basic page. This is what the page looks like. If I inspect, you can see there's some sort of color at the top. If I change it to iPad now, it's a different color. So we're going to see how we can customize based on the different sizes, desktop, tablet, and mobile, and do the unit testing for all three of those. I'm only going to be looking at regular desktop, iPad Air, and XR sizes. So I know there's a lot more out there, but those are the only ones that I will be sticking to. So at the top here, you can see that it tells you the height and width of these devices, which I will be using in the unit tests in Playwright. Now let's get to the actual code. And if I go to the unit testing part as well, let's see here, I think it's still running. And for this unit test, it can take a little bit of time. That's why I suggest running it per page or per unit test. It will be a lot faster. But you can see here that says 20 passed. So we have passed all of the tests. There's no red errors anywhere. But you can see right here in the terminal, it tells you exactly what is going on. And let's actually set this one up. And we're going to start from scratch so you can see how this is all set up. So I got Visual Studio open up right here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be creating a brand new project. And for this, I'm going to say no for TypeScript. I'm going to say no for ESLint. Next, I'll just drag and drop this over so we have this in Visual Studio. And I'll open a brand new terminal here. And I'll just run this just to make sure it works. I'll go to localhost 3001. So for this unit testing, depending how you set it up, the localhost URL does matter sometimes. So sometimes in the actual unit testing, you specify what local host number that it should run on. So you have to be very careful as to how you set up your unit tests. But here is the Next.js 13 template right now all set up right here, so we know that it's working good. Next, I'm going to be looking at this Playwright unit testing on Next.js site. So if we scroll down here, we have to install Playwright. So it shows you right here what we need to do. I'm just going to do the manual setup right here, so then it's easier to start from scratch. So we can just copy this. And I'm just going to have to make sure I end this server here. And I'll install the first one. Then I'll go back here and it says add Playwright to the package.json script. So we just need to take this line right here and add it to the scripts area in package.json. So do comma, next one right there, and save that. Next, let's see what else we have to do. So let's go to, it says index.js, and we can just copy this. So I'm just going to copy just this part right here first. I'll do one thing at a time. And I'll go to pages, index, and then everything here, I'll just replace it. Just like that. And I just need to import the link as shown right here. Import link. And just for stylization purposes, to keep it what it had before, I'm just going to have a main tag right here. Just put this inside. I'll have a class name, and I'm going to have styles.container. And what I will do next is I'll look at documentation. I'm going to have an about page as well. So let us look at the about page, or we have to create about page in the pages directory, about.js. So I created about.js. I'm going to paste this in right here, just format it a little bit nicer right here, and save that. So that one is good to go. Now, next thing we want to do once we set up this about page is let us go back to documentation again. And it says we need to now add the tests. So this is just the default tests that we will be adding in to make sure that it works. And remember I told you that it depends on which local host you use. You can see here that when we're doing unit testing, it actually tells you right here which page should it go to in order to test this unit test. So what I'm going to do is create this folder called E2E first. And if I look at the name here, it says example.spec.ts. So I'm going to copy that and make a file inside E2E. And you can see here that this file is a different color. It is like an orange color. I know it says .ts is for TypeScript, but it doesn't really matter right now because it'll still work. This is just for unit testing. The .spec is what is actually going to differentiate it from a regular file, and it's going to be a type of unit test that we need to pass. And we're going to copy all of this. and then we can paste it in here, save it, and we have to read these things really carefully. So this one, okay, this is if we want to add a base URL. We don't need to, we don't have to do that. So next it says to run the Playwright test. This is very important. You have to read this. If not, it's not going to work. So it says here, so it requires Next.js server to be running in order to start Playwright. So we have to first always start Next.js server, and then we can start the Playwright tests. So first thing we need to do is we need to build the files. So npm run build. Let's run this. In our terminal, we are just going to do npm run build. Next, what we need to do is look at the documentation, and it says now do npm run start. So this is what we do here in one of the terminals. And you can see here it starts at localhost 3000, or I might need to end the other one. Okay, it should be okay. So it looks like it already started at localhost 3000. And next we need to actually run the test. It's going to be different, so we have to put this on a different terminal in order to make this work. So npm run test and whatever that folder is. And we just click that plus sign, paste it in. And you can see here that we passed our test, and only one test is actually set up. You can see here it says should navigate to the about page, and it shows right here should navigate to the about page. So this test is a way of describing that text up there is just a way of describing. It's more for organization purposes when you write your tests and group it together. So this is what this one test is doing, and this is just a description of it. And it says we're going to go to this local host first, so localhost 3000. If it's on a different port number, it will not work. Then it's saying that on the page there should be some sort of text that is clickable, and it should say about. And when you click on it, it should go to the page URL, which is exactly this, localhost 3000/about. So that's why we created the about page. So once it's clicked on, it'll take it to this URL. And then once we go to that new URL in the about page, that about page should contain an h1 tag that contains the text saying about page. So if we go to about.js, you can see here this is surrounded by h1 tag, and it has the text about page. And you can see that everything has passed. There are no errors when you see that green check mark, and it says however many tests you have passed. And also in the README file right here, I just pasted this reminder that this is how you can run Playwright test, either that way with a specific file, or I'll put this other one here as well, what we've just done. But you can see here that we have different ways of running this test. We can just run it just like this, everything in the E2E folder, or we can specify a specific page. And what we can do here is I can actually change this slightly, and I'm going to, instead of example, I'm going to rename this to home. So I'll just say that this is a home page, home.spec.ts. So this is just testing the home page. I'm going to run it one more time just to make sure that it works. And you can see it's all good to go. And there's another thing I want to show you, if this is something that, this is also another way of testing, maybe if you want to test other pages that it should open up. So I could create a new test. Async is essentially just saying, just wait for this to run first. And we are testing the browser now. And in this test, we're going to set up a bunch of constants. So I could test out like when it opens up new pages and stuff. So I could say, I could reference other pages, but I'll just say this, and then I'll show you an example of how it can do a demo for you in front of you to open up all the pages. And I could just paste this 3 times because I'll just make it the same for right now. And I'll make a reference page 1, page 2, page 3. So open up multiple tabs in one browser. So then we can test this out on the same browser but multiple tabs. So let's save this, and let me just double check. We might need to configure stuff later, but let me just test it. This is why I provided this other line of code as well, is because we want to see when we do -- head and do this type of test, we want to see it live action demo in front of us. And you can see the 3 tabs open up. It's testing on all 3 tabs. And this is happening all on its own. Like, I'm not even touching the computer at all. All of these pop-ups and everything happen on its own with that command line. And you can see that it actually passed all the tests. It passed the navigate to the about page and also testing the multiple tabs test grouping, which I have set up right here. So that's how you set up multiple tests. But let's also look at how we can test for different size of applications as well. So we want to test for desktop, tablet, and mobile and all the changes that are happening as well. The first thing that we need to do is we actually need to go into, we don't have the file yet, so we need to make it, and we're going to right click new file, and we're going to call it playwright.config.js, because we are going to have to write some of our own code in order to actually make this work. And I will write this out. We're going to set up a bunch of devices. And this is going to require at Playwright test. So we are using Playwright to test with multiple devices. And this is just some wording here, just for documentation purposes. And we're importing test.playwright test config. This is just a multi-line comment. And then I'm going to do a config right here. And this is where I'm going to set up everything. So I'm going to set up some sort of timeout, option shared. I'm going to add some sort of timeout. And I'm going to say how we're going to use it. This is just ignoring HTTP errors. And then after use, this is where we're actually going to get into our project now. And we're going to have a name. I'm going to call it desktop chromium. So there are actually specific things that we have to do in one area, which is in the use here. This is required to have proper naming conventions for browser name because it's something that's built in already. And one of the keywords, see here, it's Chromium, Firefox, or WebKit. I'm going to test with Chromium. And the viewport is where we're actually going to specify the size of the device itself. And the height. So you see here we can manually type in the width and height we want to actually test out. Then I will also add another one. It's very important that you have proper descriptions for each of these names and the way you organize your code. And we're going to define another browser, and we'll say WebKit. And we're going to have the exact same specifications for WebKit. So you can see that we can test for multiple types of browsers and the same width and height. And I'm testing for Firefox for the next one. And the viewport, same size again. So I'm testing on multiple different browser sizes right now. And what I'll do afterwards is now I'll try defining for a mobile on Chrome. And for this part, we need to specify devices, and we're going to say which device it's for. And you can see there's actually a list that pops up automatically, so we can check for, or we can specify specific devices. I'm going to put iPhone XR. And I'll put the width here. And don't forget all the commas after the curly braces. And I'm going to put one more last one. And this is for tablet on Chrome. And for the devices, I'm going to have iPad Air. And the viewport, I'm going to specify the width. So I'm getting all these sizes from the browser. Remember at the top, it tells you what the height and width is for each device. So now that I saved that, at the bottom, I have to export it as well. There we go. So we're exporting the config, which is what we've defined up here. It's the configuration for all of these different browsers and device types. So we could save that. And I'll also have a link down below so you guys could check out the code in case you have any spelling mistakes or anything is going wrong on your end. And next thing we want to do is I'm going to add this color. So on this part here, the main tag, I'm going to add an ID is equal to coloring, because I want to add that color background like I've shown you in the beginning, and just to test out for the different sizes, make sure the colors show up. And now that we save this, we need to go to our styles. And in our styles, we need to go to home.module.css. Let's go to the mobile area. So right here, mobile. I could just put something like, I put a class already in the other one, so I could put container. I'll say background color red for this one. Or let me just try, I think I wanted this in 814. Okay, so I'm just going to change the width of this mobile just so you guys could see. I'm going to put this 414 pixels right here so we match everything else. I just changed the mobile size right here to 414 pixels and then put the container for background color red so we could test that. And there's one more area we want to add a color to. And it'll be the tablet. And for tablet, I am just going to make it myself right here at the top of mobile. And I'll say tablet. And for this one, I'm going to say RGB color. 255. Make that blue right there. So I have this background color, so when it gets to this tablet size, it will be a blue color, but when it's mobile, it should be red. So those are the two things that I just wanted to change in the .css file itself. Then I need to actually create, let's go do the tablet portion first. So in the E2E, I'm going to create a separate file, and I'm going to call it home-tablet.spec.ts. And right here, this is where I actually want to test out or set up the tests for my tablet. So we just need to import the things that we want to test, which is we're using the actual test variables. We're going to test the devices and what we expect. So here we want to say specifically in this file, we are going to be using a specific browser and device and port width and height. So we're going to specify iPad Air, what we've mentioned before in our playwright.config.js, and then we'll have our viewport. Next, right here, we're going to actually set up the real test that we actually want to test on our tablet. We're going to say testing for home tablet. And we're using this arrow function to say, let us do something with this. And inside here, we're actually going to set up the test. We'll say testing for colors. On tablet. And we're using async because we want to wait until all the tests are passed in order to do something next. On the page, we're going to do something. And we're saying we want to go to this page when we set up the test or do the test. Next, we want to check the main container and locate it on our page. And we're going to locate the coloring ID. Remember, ID is denoted with hashtags. And next, we're going to check the background color. And we're going to be checking and evaluating to see if we get the actual right color back to us. We're getting the property value, and the property value is the background color. And once it's returned, we can console log it. This is how you actually see it in the terminal, is by just doing console log. But to actually run the test, we need to run the expect. and then do .2b because we want whatever it's checking on the browser itself, when it's returned, we want to make sure that's what we have written in our code is actually this RGB value. And let's save that. And now that we've saved that, let's just run this test to make sure everything is running okay. And you can see here that we've passed all of our tests right now, so everything looks like it is working and it's all good to go. Now we just need to test for one more thing, which is the mobile spec. So let's say we want to go E2E, and then we just want to create a new file, and we're going to call it home mobile.spec.ts. And here we're going to write our mobile testing now. And for our mobile testing, we're going to set up the same format as our tablet. And now we want to actually set up our actual test we want to test out. So we have the browser we want to use, which is Chromium, the device, which is iPhone XR. We could put the viewport if we want, but I'll just leave it like that. And what I could do is now I could say this entire thing will be testing the mobile viewport for iPhone XR. Then let's set up the actual function here. And we're going to set up the test. And we are testing for colors on iPhone XR. So it's very important to be very descriptive in order to have a clear understanding as to what is being tested when you read the terminal. And we're going to say we're test whatever's on our page. And we are going to test when we go to the page, go to when we go to localhost 3000, now we can actually test for things we want to test. And it's going to be pretty much exactly the same thing. So I could actually just copy what we've done before and just paste it in right here so we do less typing. But the only thing I want to change is this part right here, because now, remember in our code we changed it to red, so we need a red RGB color. So we got this right up here, we got this set up. Now, if we just run this first, if I go to localhost 3000, I also want to show you what it looks like here. Refresh it. Oh, we're on localhost 3000. So this is what we have. If I inspect it, you can see iPad Air, it's a blue background. iPhone XR, it's a red background. Now, since I have this set up here for mobile, it's checking for red. And then also tablet, it's checking for blue. Now, if I run this, all of these tests, it should all pass at the moment. Let's run it and let's see what happens. So these tests do take a little bit of time. So you just have to be patient when you're running these tests. And you can see right here, once it's all done, you should see all these green check marks here. It's ready to go, which means it's done and there's no errors, so it says 20 passed. So this is how you go about testing the different colors, the different size of devices that you want to do. This playwright.config file is the most important here. It's where you set up all your configurations for the types of devices you want to set up. You can always check out the link down in the description box below if you are having any errors to double check how you have written your code.